There we go. All right, so welcome everybody to the information session on the Merida Study Abroad program for the winter 2022 and the 2022 spring extension as well. We're going to start with some introductions of your presenters. Marcia, could you begin, please?
I always have to be reminded. Hi, I'm Marcia Good from the anthropology department, and I'll be the one accompanying students to Merida. There are a lot of wonderful, wonderful hands in this program, but I'll be your point of contact while we're there, and I'll be teaching the course called Maya Humanities. The first thing, it won't be as necessary for people that are there as it is when I teach it here on campus. The first lesson is, yes, there are Maya now. They did not go away at the point of the Spanish arriving on the Americas. So there is Maya theater, Maya music, Maya poetry, Maya essays. There's just a lot of, and it's wonderful, the chance to do it in person, let's hope. In Merida will be exceptionally wonderful, because usually we have to do that, making connections. I do have a couple texts that give us Maya, English, and Spanish to work with. The other thing that you get as a part of the Maya Humanities program is Maya is spoken a lot on the peninsula. In Mexico, Nahuatl is a language that has more speakers, but Maya is the one spoken, people are more bilingual, so they hang on to Maya, and Maya is used in the current time. And once you learn a few basic things, we have a book called Maya for Travelers and Students, and just learning some basic things, but what you're really doing is learning to hear. So you will be able to start hearing Maya instead of just assuming everything around you is Spanish. And that is my hope for the program. Also, we get to go on several trips, I hope, and learn to know each other really well. I did this about 10 years ago. I return to Merida often because it's like a second home to me. And so I'm really looking forward to it this time. I'm sure we can talk about more parts of it when we do the question and answer.
Great, thanks. Howard?
Hi everyone, I'm Howard Rosing. I'm the director of the Stain Center, and we're a partner in this program with Study Abroad and with the faculty directors every year. What we do is we support the service learning component of the program and the community engagement component of the program, both for the winter quarter as well as for the spring extension component or program. Which incorporates an internship. So I'm happy to be a part of this. We have been working on it for 15 years now with the same community organization in Merida. So we have really close friends at the community level who are really dedicated and committed to working with our students, supporting our students, and we always find that it becomes reciprocal and that the students end up being really supportive of our community partner, even beyond the program. We have many students who remain in touch with our community members that we work with in Merida. So looking forward to introducing you to some of those ideas and activities that we're involved in Merida as it relates to community engagement and service learning.
Great, Claire?
Hi everyone, my name is Claire Trinkle. I am a study abroad peer advisor, and I also went to Merida in winter quarter 2020. And so I'll share my experience a little bit later and then be able to answer any questions from the student perspective. So start thinking about that if you have any questions based on what it's like to live with the host family, what the classes are like, or really what it is like to be there from the perspective of an American. So yeah. Excited.
And I'm Marty McGivern. I'm the Director of Study Abroad, and I'm the advisor for this program. So I'll talk a little bit about kind of logistical stuff. And if you apply to and participate in the program, I'll be your contact from the Study Abroad office throughout that process. For our objectives in this session today, we're going to understand the key characteristics of the program. You're going to connect with us. We are your pre-departure support network, the people who are presenting here today. So we'd like you to get to know us a bit. We want to discuss some program considerations like calendar, costs, scholarship, prerequisites, and then we want to answer all your questions. So to that end, we'll have a question answer session at the end, but if something occurs to you along the way as one of us is talking, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask a question, or if you feel more comfortable, pop it into the chat. We'll monitor the chat as we go through as well. Howard, can you talk a bit about community engagement in the program?
Great, excellent. Thank you for letting me start. The community engagement component, as I mentioned, has been a long-standing part of the Merida program. It is integrated into the winter term through service learning in a course called Critical Community Engagement, which is CSS 320, Community Service Studies 320. And our students generally take that course during an evening during the winter term in Merida. And the course, being a service learning course, integrates ideas, methods, theories around community engagement, around service, around structural inequalities in society, and how students can engage using a critical lens in supporting change and transformation. All the while that students are working within a community called Emiliano Zapata Sur, which is on the south end of Merida. It's a bus trip from downtown Merida and from the center of town that students take once a week, where they experience the life of local people who travel those buses back and forth to different jobs and different opportunities that the economy in Merida provides for people in especially living in these low income or economically distressed contexts. So Emiliano Zapata Sur is, I would say the neighborhood itself is only about 20 some years old. When I first went there 16 years or 17 years ago, it was still developing rapidly. Now there are many assets in the community. And one of the big assets that we partner with is a group called MUSUM, or Manos Unidas for short. There's a full name, which I won't go into now, but Manos Unidas, this relates to hands together, basically holding hands together in solidarity with each other, that in a way that supports youth, as you could see in the photo. So they're mainly made up, the group is mainly made up of women, mostly mothers and grandparents, who are organized into a non-governmental organization, into an NGO or nonprofit. They've been working in an organized fashion since we started working with them to provide support to youth in the community and to each other. So they're like a mutual aid group. And they have a number of programs. The youth programs are the primary ones that we focus on, where students are working once a week with youth in the community on different projects centered around what's called Casas Digitales. And these casas digitales are internet houses built on the properties of the women themselves, where they have students, youth who are attracted to these places to use computers, browse the internet, play games, but primarily the focus is on getting them to do homework. And our students engage with youth in and around these casas digitales. And so that's the introduction. And then there's a lot of different projects and things that happen throughout the term where students are engaging with youth, with the women, primarily with the women in the community around different activities that support the development of the neighborhood and support the development of families and residents in general. So that's just a brief introduction. Again, it's a once a week experience that's integrated into the curriculum through community service studies and critical community engagement, the course.
Marcia?
I was like, I think that's my turn now. Yes, the course that I'm teaching, I talked to you a little bit about, and as I said, who are the Maya? You know, we talked a little bit about how it's a language that's still very present on the peninsula, and a lot of people. It's really fascinating to think about Yucatan and the peninsula as a place with so much immigration from the outside. You have a very strong Lebanese community. You have people from Mexico City. After the 1985 earthquake, there was a really big influx of people that used to live in Mexico City that went out to all of the edges. People in Yucatan are often thought of as sort of in the, like United States would say, out west, but it's built on Maya world. And this is very present to you, even in the structures all around you. Because the buildings of downtown were built on the city of Tijuana, which had been there for thousands of years. So when you are in Merida, you are more in contact with the history of this planet than you are in many parts of the world. I remember going to Spain and someone said, now look at that boulevard. It is older than anything you know in the Americas. And I said, how old is it? And he said, well, it started in 1550. It's 500 years old. And I just stood there stunned because Merida is so much older. Yes, the Spanish building of Merida on the city of Tijuana is about 500 years, but that competes with this boulevard that I was looking at in Spain. So just the sense of history and the depth of history and the many kind of layers that have built the present is very, very real when you're in Merida. And I just love it that you can talk to people who carry that themselves. The class that I teach, which I talked a little bit about before, is cross-listed. And this makes it possible for it to meet a variety of credit options for you. That's the other thing you should really be asking questions about in the Q&A is how many different ways you can arrange these courses. You can feel pretty confident that you can put together a patchwork that is going to serve you. And that's why we have it cross-listed in a bunch of different places. Also, you're taking Spanish courses while you're there. You're taking 2, and you are tested when you arrive by the university to see where you are best placed to learn the most. This doesn't impact what credits you are getting that you need back at DePaul. They just make sure that you're situated in the right one for you. And so you're taking both of those classes at the same time as well. So you have that community service course that Howard was talking about that's linked to the community engagement project. You have the 2 Spanish courses, and then you have my course, which can be slotted in a bunch of different ways.
Great. Claire, can you share your experience a bit?
Absolutely. All right. So So I went abroad right before the pandemic, so I feel very lucky to have actually been able to participate in this program. So I selected this program first of all because it is the only program that goes abroad just for winter quarter, and I'm graduating this June, so just in a few weeks, just a whole year early. So I did not have time to do a really long program. So this program was perfect. Because I was still able to go abroad, but I didn't have to take like a winter, spring, or fall. So, and plus not being in Chicago in the winter, absolutely wonderful. Definitely recommend it. It's like 90 degrees in Merida every day. Um, so I'll just like go through these questions and then kind of just talk a little bit more about specifics. This experience definitely like helped me come into myself, I would say. Studying abroad is a very unique experience that not many students are able to participate in, but you really find yourself. And definitely, of course, I focused on Spanish a lot and really perfecting my proficiency with that, but also just understanding what it means to be a global citizen and engaging in a culture not as a tourist, but as someone who is actually wanting to learn and respect a different culture that I didn't know. And maybe there were some things I didn't agree with that I still had to respect about the culture. For example, in Mexico, there is it's called the machismo culture. So it's very male dominated. And so I did have to kind of learn to navigate that. So whenever you go to a different culture, you're going to find these things that are very different. And so I really learned what it means to be a global citizen, not just, from my Midwest self. So I would say that there are a couple things about the program that did present challenges, just little things that you just have to get used to anytime you study abroad. For example, the transportation in Mexico, in Merida, not incredible. So I really had to learn how to navigate the bus system. And I feel so spoiled being in Chicago because the CTA is so amazing. And in Mexico, because it does get so hot, everything kind of is earlier. So we were up at 5:45, 6 in order to get to school by 7:30. And there is no like bus pass or anything. There are bus stops, kind of, but really wherever you just see a big group of people conjugating on the side of the road, that is a bus stop. And then you jump in the street and wave the bus down and get them to stop. So it's fun. And I really loved about the program that you go with DePaul students, so you are not alone. So I think there were like around 20 of us, and we all got really close. And so you really are in it with other people. It is very much a group effort. And so you're all chasing down the bus together. You're all going out after class together. You're all studying together. So it's really fun. This program I feel like gets overlooked a little bit because it isn't in Europe. So you can't just go off to a different country every weekend like a lot of people in Europe do. But I feel like this program is really wonderful because you get so close to your host family. Like I still talk to my host mom all the time because we were together constantly and we did things together. But you still definitely travel around all the time not just in Merida, but around the Yucatan Peninsula. We went to Tulum, which is really like a very popular tourist destination that's just gorgeous. We went to a ton of cenotes. Basically every other weekend we were going on a day trip, an overnight trip, or like a full like 2 to 4 day excursion. So all the time we would just like not have school on Thursday or Friday or Monday and like be doing something fun. But we did it as a group. And so you become like a little family. So I think this program really is great for people who are not quite ready to just completely go out and do everything themselves alone on a study abroad experience, which some students do want that, and that is wonderful. But this program really, it is about community. It's about forming that community within your DePaul group, but also building that bridge between DePaul and the community in Merida. So you have a lot of support. You are never alone in this program. You have automatic friends from the people you're going with. So yeah, that's kind of a very brief overview. And if you guys have more questions, we can you can drop them in the chat and we can get to them at the end.
Okay, thank you everybody for talking about what the program is really about. Here are just a few kind of additional things that you need to know that are perhaps less interesting logistics. So the travel dates are from early January to late March, roughly the same dates as the DePaul quarter, more or less. For those that extend into the spring, you do just stay there, and then at that point you follow the Mexican University calendar rather than the DePaul calendar in terms of spring break. The cost is 16 credits of tuition plus a program fee of $4,450. That includes, you'll see in different study abroad programs, different levels of things are included. This is a program fee that includes most of the expenses. We have on our website an estimated expenses sheet, so you can think about any other money that you would need outside of this. But this includes your housing and 3 meals a day, the excursions and the day trips and tours that both Claire and Marcia referred to are all included in this fee. It does not include your flight, so you do need to plan to purchase your flight outside of this expense. Scholarships are available, so any financial aid that you normally have at DePaul just automatically applies without you doing anything. On top of that, everyone who applies for study abroad is considered for a study abroad specific scholarship that is need-based, and you don't have to fill out a separate application or write an essay or anything like that. We're just going to consider you regardless based on the financial aid information that you have on file at DePaul. Spanish 101 is required. You are required to have completed Spanish 101 by the time the program starts. If you need to take that in fall quarter, for example, before you travel, that's allowed. We recommend if you can get up to a 103 level or higher, it's just easier to interact right away with your host family, with members of the community, with people that you meet around. So recommended, but not required. And then COVID considerations. We're all talking about this fantastic opportunity in the middle of a pandemic. You know, things are on the mend in the US. They are in Mexico, but at a much slower rate. What we are doing with all study abroad at DePaul, what we have been doing this whole time is evaluating our programs on a case-by-case basis to see if they are feasible and we can truly send our students on these programs. We were not able to send students on this program in winter of 2021. We are really, truly hopeful that if all of our students are vaccinated and people associated with the program are able to get vaccinations, that there's a really good chance that we will be able to offer this program in winter of 2021. The timeline for that, you'll apply by the 15th of June. You'll get accepted. We'll ask you to commit to the program. And then in the beginning of fall quarter, we'll do a really thorough evaluation and we'll let you know at that point if we're clear to offer the program or if for whatever reason we have to cancel it. If you want to talk about your own personal situation or family concerns as you think about this, how things like if you commit, can you later withdraw, all those kind of details, I'm happy to have that conversation with you offline. We're trying to provide as much support to students and families during this time. It's hard to make decisions during this time when everything is so uncertain and has been for a while, and realistically will continue to be for some time as well. So this is the time where we'd like you to ask questions.